Do you ever feel overwhelmed by the ever-changing world of technology? Tech It Out can help make some sense of it all. Breaking down geek speak into street speak, technology columnist, author, and TV personality Mark Saltzman covers consumer technology each week for every listener. Mark tackles the latest news, reviews, and how-tos to help you understand what's hot, what's not, and why.
Hey everyone, welcome to Tech It Out. This is episode 107. Hope you're having a great day so far on this first weekend of August. We have an awesome show planned for you this hour. We're going to start off with a new addiction treatment platform that uses technology. After that, we'll chat esports. Did you hear about a 16-year-old kid last week who won $3 million playing Fortnite? And we're going to end off on how tech powers traditional sports, not just esports, like last week's Tour de France. All right, let's kick things off. We all know someone who has or is struggling with addiction. It could be a family member, a friend, or a coworker. Maybe it's you. In fact, according to a Surgeon General report, more than 20 million Americans have an addiction of some kind. And if you look at the economic impact of drug and alcohol misuse and addiction, it amounts to about $442 billion every year. And that tops diabetes at $245 billion for the economic impact. Now, thankfully, there are some new tools that you can use, including one we're going to hear about right now called WeRecover. It's a new platform that connects people struggling with an addiction with their viable treatment options. Joining us on the line to discuss is Stephen Estes, co-founder and CEO of WeRecover. Welcome to the show, Stephen.
Thanks for having me, Mark.
Sure thing. Now, and congratulations. I know your app just launched. Before we get into WeRecover, talk to us about the kind of addictions that people are struggling with today and how bad is it? Can you quantify it?
Yeah, I mean, this entire company was really forged in response to the opioid epidemic. Mm-hmm. So opioids are an enormous problem in this country, as you know, and you see in the news every day. And those struggling with opioids, which include heroin, Oxycontin, any drugs of that category, make up about 60% of all those reaching out to WeRecover for help. Wow. Followed by, interestingly, methamphetamine, which comes in number 2 in terms of percentage of total accounts on WeRecover, followed by alcohol.
And Stephen, this isn't just like a low-income sort of at-risk neighborhood problem, right? I mean, even affluent communities are suffering from these kinds of addictions.
Yeah, our users are coming from all over the country. And we actually started this thinking that we were going to do a geographic rollout in Los Angeles. Let's get all the treatment centers in LA on the platform. Let's focus our efforts here. And we were just surprised to see that people are coming to us from Alaska, from Maine, from Texas. I mean, this is national, and there are no socioeconomic boundaries. I mean, we've had people create accounts, and it says $150,000 budget for treatment, and we're thinking that has to be a joke. Nobody really has that kind of money to spend, but they do. So the point is, yeah, this knows no socioeconomic boundaries.
Okay. And your platform, WeRecover, helps those even with very little or no budget as well, I'm sure. So why don't we dive in? Talk to us about what WeRecover is all about and how it works.
Yeah, so WeRecover was really born in response to a personal problem, which is that my best friend called me a few years ago, said that his little sister was strung out on drugs and needed our help. And we picked her up literally from a crack house. We got her in my car and we said, all right, let's get her into treatment. And what should have been a couple hours maybe turned into 3.5 weeks of trying to find her the right treatment center, going to Google, calling 30 rehabs, doing a 20 to 30 minute kind of clinical assessment every time, sending her insurance card, waiting for them to get back. Ultimately, we did get her into treatment, but it was 3.5 weeks after we actually needed it. And we just realized that was a problem that, one, millions of other people must be facing because we're pretty savvy guys. And the fact that it took us this long, I mean, what's it like if someone doesn't have a loving brother, if they themselves are on drugs looking for treatment? So partially this was forged in response to how difficult it is. But 2, we just looked at this and realized that technology could bridge the gap, that this isn't actually rocket science. If you know what types of insurance every treatment center accepts, if they have a bed available, what clinical services they offer. If you piece together a data set on these treatment centers, you can, you could essentially build something like Kayak or Expedia for treatment, which was our vision. So the goal here was to make it as easy to find a rehab as it is to find a hotel in New York City.
So walk us through how it works. So you've got, in your case, it was a friend's sibling. You got a loving relative who wants to help. What's the first thing you do? Is it an app that you download? Is it a website? Do you need insurance?
No, you don't need insurance. Basically, our platform is equipped to help anybody. So you could literally create an account and say, I have no cash or insurance, and you will still find treatment options. But I would say go to WeRecover.com or download the app, create an account. It'll take you 90 seconds. We're going to ask about, whoever needs treatment, whether it's you or a loved one. We're going to get some clinical information, what addictions they're battling, where they are, what health insurance, if any, they have. And we have 2 clinical self-assessments. So we're not doctors, we're not medical providers, we don't pretend to be, but take 2 minutes, answer some questions that we created, in conjunction with UCLA's health system. And, basically we will identify the type of treatment center you need. We will show you all of the options available to you, and we make it extremely easy to connect with those treatment centers.
And we're chatting, by the way, with Stephen Estes, co-founder and CEO of a new app and platform, actually, called WeRecover, designed to help those who suffer from addiction. So once you've said, okay, I live in Miami, I've got an opioid crisis in my home or an alcohol addiction of my own, and then it shows you what your options are after you fill out this short survey, if you will, or Q&A sort of forms, then now you're left to your own devices. You have to contact those facilities. Is there any other follow through?
Yeah, so we observed something interesting. Most of these treatment centers, they're not very tech savvy, and they don't have modern communication systems. So they may have an 800 number, and if it's after hours and you call them, they're not answering, and they're going to call you back the next day, at which point you may be on drugs and miss the call. And, there's this back and forth. So we really, rather than just letting our platform end where you discover your rehab, we said, let's build some communications tools around those interactions to actually facilitate them and make sure that if you want to talk to a rehab, you get connected. So, one thing we observed early on is that everybody likes to text message. Phone calls, which are really how these treatment centers are equipped to operate, are kind of antiquated. Everybody's texting now. So we built a very simple way for when you see a rehab you want to connect with, hit SMS connect, and our system spins up a 3-way text message between us, you, the client, and every single person on the admission staff at that treatment center. So by simply going through us, you're now being routed to, say, 6 people on staff at the admissions at the treatment center, and it's going to their cell phones. So we basically guarantee that when you're trying to reach out, the rehab does receive your message. They do connect with you. So it's there are a lot of little details to our platform that make it incredibly efficient and helpful.
That sounds very impressive. And I understand, Stephen, that you've put together quite a dream team behind WeRecover. Talk to us about, especially some of the big names here.
Yeah. So, when this thing started, it was really my best friend, Max, and I solving a problem for his sister. And, we have willed this thing into reality, this platform that has the ability to help millions of people. And we managed to get people who really, at the time, a few years ago, were quite out of our league on board. So it's really started with our first institutional investors, Wonder Ventures, and they led us to Crosslink Capital, which is a tier 1 VC out of San Francisco that, we're grateful that they backed us and, bought into this vision. And, from there, the doors really opened. We have recruited some of the top tech, design, engineering talent, really in the world, the type of people that work at Google and Facebook. And we managed to get them into the addiction treatment space really for the first time ever. And with that team, we've, since been making inroads into Washington, D.C., and we've gotten Governor Chris Christie of New Jersey, who was the chairman of the opioid task force for this presidential administration. So he really shaped the Support Act, which was signed into law last year to deal with the opioid epidemic. And, he's on our team, and we've, recruited really world-class clinicians and doctors.
Before we wrap up, Stephen, what's the revenue model?
It's almost similar to OpenTable. So one, we build software that powers treatment centers. So, we build software that their admissions teams use to communicate with clients, to communicate with one another, to manage the admissions process. So it's a SaaS-based revenue model with, essentially are selling a CRM and insurance technology to the treatment centers. And on the flip side, when people connect with treatment centers through our platform, kind of like, Google AdWords can sell a click to a treatment center, we do monetize those connections.
Right. But there's no cost to the person who's seeking help.
It is free and always will be to everybody seeking help.
All right. So it's called WeRecover, one word, but capital W, capital R. The app is now live at both the App Store for iOS devices like iPhone and iPad, as well as Google Play for Android.
That is correct.
Okay. WeRecover, and then the website?
WeRecover.com.
Okay, WeRecover.com. Stephen Estes, keep up the great work. It sounds fascinating. Congratulations on the successful launch.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on the show.
Thanks for listening to Tech It Out, powered by ASUS. I'll tell you more about them after this short break. And we're going to dive into our next interview about esports. You won't believe how much these kids are making playing video games. We'll be right back with more Tech It Out. Stay with us.
Listen to Tech It Out whenever you want. Find the Tech It Out podcast at iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts.
Welcome back to Tech It Out, powered by ASUS. ASUS creates technology for today and tomorrow's smart life, including its line of award-winning laptops, desktops, monitors, smartphones, tablets, smartwatches, and much more, including their line of gaming gear as well, called Republic of Gamers, or ROG, very, very popular. For those in search of incredible, visit asus.com/US/radio for more info. That's asus.com/US/radio. All right, let's continue on with today's Tech It Out. Estimated to be a billion-dollar industry this year, esports isn't a word exploding. We're talking professional video gamers and teams who compete for serious cash prizes and attracting legions of fans, sponsors, and advertisers in the process. For a look at esports and a discussion about getting blazing internet speeds for both recreational and professional multiplayer gamers, we're joined by Comcast VP Matt Lederer. Welcome to the show, Matt.
Mark, thank you very much for having me. Looking forward to the conversation.
Me too. So before we talk about your partnership with Evil Geniuses, tell us how big esports is. I know that we just had this Fortnite World Cup in New York with $30-40 million in prize pool? That's crazy. Yeah,
a young 16-year-old from Pennsylvania just walked away with the first prize of $3 million. And, to have the number of people they did at Arthur Ashe Stadium where they hold the U.S. Open tournament here in a couple weeks is just crazy. I actually saw a stat the other day where they were showing the prize money winners from I want to say Wimbledon when Djokovic won, and then the Masters with Tiger Woods and another golf tournament, and this young man won more money for winning Fortnite than any of those did for winning their respective professional sports major championship.
It's fascinating. But for those who are listening that have heard the term esports but may not know exactly what we're talking about here, can you clarify?
Yeah, I think it's a good question because the term esports, we refer to it here at Comcast as just gaming in general or video gaming, has a lot of different answers and has really grown and changed over time as it has begun to become more ingrained into popular cultures. It's not fully there yet. There's still, sort of an undercurrent to it. But essentially what esports is the participation and viewership of people competing in video games. And whether that be on your desktop, whether that be through your consoles like Xboxes and PlayStations, but it's the idea of competing in video games. And it has now grown to a professional level. And when you grow to a professional level, not only do you get the prize money and all of those other things, but you get fans and viewers. And people are watching people compete in video games. And very often I'm asked, when we do new partnerships in gaming or we try to talk to executives here about it, I get a lot of, who would ever watch somebody else playing video games? And the example that I always give is that I never played football in middle school, high school, or college. But you know what I do every Sunday?
Watch football.
I sit down and I watch other people play football. And when you think about how many of the younger people in our country have grown up, the idea of somebody sitting down and watching play video games is natural to them because this is what they enjoy, and they want to watch people who are good at it.
So whether it's a spectator sport in person, like in that arena in New York, or online, like my son will watch over YouTube or Twitch, people playing games, it's entertainment, and then they also can learn something, because often the people who are watching gamers are gamers themselves, and they may pick up some tactics and whatnot.
100% correct, yep.
And what attracts Comcast to this space specifically as a company?
Sure. The space is really unique for us because we do a lot of different partnerships, traditional sports, music, TV, movie shows, all of those types of things. But the world of gaming and esports is really attractive to us for a few reasons. First of all, the demographic of those that participate either through playing or watching is a really sweet and attractive segment for any business, right? It's a very young, it's a very diverse. It's predominantly male, although the skew male and female has been changing over time. Mm-hmm. And that's a difficult segment to reach through traditional advertising. So that's number one. Number two is from a traditional Comcast or Xfinity marketing perspective, a lot of these guys are streamer first. They are what some people might call cord cutters or even cord nevers. It's still a very important group to us to reach to them to understand the superiority of our internet product. Mm-hmm. And so to be able to be with them during their moments of passion and enjoyment of gaming, to get our brand relevance out there, is challenging from traditional advertising. Our integration into esports allows us to reach that segment. And the last thing I would say is it's a massive segment, right? It's a massive segment in terms of the revenue that goes into it. To kind of put it in perspective, right? People always talk about, esports is going to be $1 billion industry and it's going to surpass the NFL in terms of interest. Well, the best way that I've sort of rationalized in terms of how big it is, 2018, it was about $36 billion industry in terms of things being purchased, whether that be directly buying games, buying in-game stuff, mm-hmm. going to events, etc. $36 billion, 3 times the box office gross from movies. So amazing. 3 times a movie. So it's a big segment who's spending money, and lastly, using our internet product in a heavy way, right? So this is a group that needs our product to participate, to enjoy, to watch this sport. It's a perfect segment for us, and we've been really happy how our efforts have borne out in this space.
I'll ask you in a moment about Xfinity and what that means for gamers and those even who don't play games. We'll continue chatting with Comcast about pro gaming, esports after this short break, and we'll learn, as I mentioned, about Xfinity and what that means for those who use the internet. Of course, those who require a lot more high speed, like online gaming, competitive gaming, and video streaming, and the like. So we're going to get to all of that when we return. You're listening to Tech It Out, syndicated across the U.S. via the Radio America Network and in podcast form. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Want to follow Mark? Google him. Mark with a C and Saltzman with a Z. Breaking down geek speak into street speak. This is Tech It Out. Tech It Out with technology columnist, author, and TV personality Mark Saltzman.
Welcome back to Tech It Out on this first weekend of August. I hope you're all having a great summer so far. This show, Tech It Out, is powered by Western Digital and its super rugged G technology branded Armor ATD portable hard drive. It's designed for those looking for a durable drive to bring on the go, especially for photographers, videographers, and other content creators. Go to g-technology.com for more on the Western Digital Armor ATD. We're chatting with Comcast VP Matt Lederer. We're chatting about esports as well as your partnership now. Comcast has partnered with Evil Geniuses. Who are they? Why have you partnered with them? And how have you partnered with them?
Yeah, so Evil Geniuses are one of the top esports teams that are in the world. And we looked at many teams to partner with. This is probably about 4 or 5 years ago now that we've been with the Evil Geniuses. So we picked them for a couple of reasons. Number one, they were successful, right? We wanted to be with a winner. They're the world champs of Dota 2. They're a top-ranked team in that area. They've had teams in everything from Halo now to Call of Duty to Street Fighter. So they play a variety of different games, which allows us to reach a large number of people and a variety of different people interested in specific games. But most importantly, I know we'll chat a little bit more about Xfinity. This is a team that plays and practices in our markets. What I mean by that, for those that don't know, is these guys all live together in the same houses. They wake up in the morning, maybe they wake up in the afternoon, and they're practicing and playing their games on a daily basis. So they have 2 homes right now, one in the Bay Area and one in the Chicago area, both important markets for us. And most importantly, they use our product. So they have Xfinity in their household, and they're using it on a daily basis to practice, to win, to compete. So we're really excited about that. We get everything from branding on their jerseys and jackets. So when they show up for events, the Xfinity brand is prominent on them. We do a lot of social content work with them. There's a series called The Life of a Genius, which takes people behind the scenes in terms of what life is like. We also brand their houses entirely. They are the Xfinity training facilities. So when they are streaming content and their fans are watching them, the brand comes through behind them. But really, most importantly, to use these players who are celebrities in their own right to authentically talk about our brand in a relevant manner. People look up to these guys in terms of their gaming importance, but also what they need from a technological standpoint to succeed. And for them to sort of be brand endorsers has been really really important for us and something we're excited about. They're about to move into 2 new places. The Bay Area house is going to go to Seattle, also a market of ours, and then the Chicago house is going to be moving to Boston, also a market of ours. And they make those moves, for your listeners, the reason they make those moves is because there's a lot of competitions in Asia, in Europe, and being in places like Seattle and Boston help from a travel standpoint for them.
Sure, got it. Now, whether you're a recreational or professional gamer, how does Xfinity Wi-Fi optimize the gaming experience?
Yeah, and it's a really good question, because I don't want anybody to think that our offering is just for the esports fan or the esports watcher. Gaming is much broader than that, right? Gaming is obviously these guys who are playing these games on desktop, but gaming is also people who are playing on the console. Maybe they're playing NBA 2K or an NFL game or Call of Duty. They still need our products and services. So gaming as a whole is a really important segment for us to reach, and it really goes across a lot of different demographics. Esports is very focused on that younger, diverse, predominantly male audience that I talked about, but our product sits right in the center of it, right? The line that I've often said is that Xfinity Internet is core to the way people participate, enjoy, and watch gaming content. We have the largest gig internet network in the country. We are the fastest internet in America, according to many third-party research work. We have increased our speed 17 times in 18 years. We are fully committed to this passion area, this concept of gaming, and making sure that our product is there for them, whether that's from a Wi-Fi standpoint in the home, whether it's somebody that's going to have a tethered direct gig line running into their machines. We're going to make sure that everything we do from a performance, from a latency, from a speed, from an upload, a download perspective is maximized and right there for gamers to use. We like to say we have gamer-grade internet, and we're going to live into that line.
Does 5G pose as a threat to fast Wi-Fi in the home? Some have said that it's going to be the third wave of cord cutting. First it was landlines for many. Then it might be cable TV in lieu of over-the-top services like Amazon Prime Video and Netflix and so on. What about 5G? Is Comcast involved in that at all?
I think the great thing about our space is the amount of competition that we have on a daily basis forces us into change and evolution and staying ahead of the curve. So whether that be some of the things you mentioned or 5G, those things are going to make us stay ahead of the game and make sure that we compete in the right way. Identifying this as an important segment is step one, and then making sure that we have the ability to compete, whether it's 5G or with Wi-Fi or whatever it may be, to this segment is really important. To answer your question specifically, we haven't seen it yet. I think something like 5G is going to be really interesting for this space because I think that they require a little bit more than what that's going to offer. But at this point, really, we embrace the competition because it pushes us every single day to get better. And when we're focused on a segment like this, it makes me happy because I like to make sure that we're focused on the right segment and our products and our offerings are focused appropriately.
All right. So for those who are listening and they're interested in Xfinity Wi-Fi and to see if it's available in their area, is there a website you'd recommend?
Sure, absolutely. Go to www.xfinity.com. And if you're specifically interested in how we can maximize your internet for gaming, go to xfinity.com/gaming. You'll see all of the different partnerships that we have in place, but also all of the products, benefits, and features that we have for gamers.
Okay. Again, that's Xfinity, the letter X, FINITY.com. Thank you so much, Matt. I've enjoyed our chat. Thank you so much for your time.
Mark, I appreciate it.
Man, I don't know about you. I love gaming. I started off in this industry reviewing video games in 1994, part-time, so 25 years ago. And truthfully, it was only so I can get free computer games. I didn't want to spend $70, $80 on the newest game, so I figured if I wrote reviews of them, then I would get them for free. And I had a couple of editors who took a shot on me, and the rest is history. I started to expand into radio and TV, movie theaters, and then public speaking events. And then I expanded in topic as well. So not just games, of course, but technology, consumer electronics, apps, and, smart homes and automotive tech and so on. So I hope you've been enjoying the show. I try to give a variety of topics. Today, for example, we started off with WeRecover. It's an addiction platform, a digital addiction healthcare platform for those who are suffering from an addiction or know someone who is. Then we just chatted about competitive gaming. And then finally, our last interview on the back half of the show is going to be about sports and technology, including the data that's derived from cyclists during the Tour de France last weekend. So that's going to be an exciting interview with NTT, a huge company you may not have heard of, but they did create something you probably use, emojis. We'll be back with more Tech It Out coming up right after this. Stay with us.
Breaking down geek speak into street speak. Tech It Out, hosted by Mark Saltzman.
Welcome back to Tech It Out. You might not think sports and technology, like artificial intelligence, have an awful lot to do with one another. On the contrary, every professional sport today leverages AI and data, and cycling is no exception. In honor of the Tour de France last week, we're joined on the line by Etienne Reynaca. He's the group CTO for NTT, and he's here to chat with us about tech and sport. Welcome to the show, Etienne.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you for having me.
So that was a very exciting race last weekend. Tell us about Tour de France.
Well, Tour de France is just an amazing sports event that runs over 3 weeks through France mainly. It's a race through 3,340 roughly kilometers.
Wow.
176 riders. And they do 21 stages with 2 rest days. So you're thinking about a stage of 200 to 220 kilometers, so make them about 140 miles a day. And they cross France, they cross the Pyrenees Mountains, and they cross the Alps.
Amazing.
So, yeah, pretty tough endurance race.
Now, I know you were the official technology partner at the Tour de France. So tell us a bit about NTT before we talk about how technology and sport work together.
Sure. The NTT Group is a Japanese-based company. It's one of the largest, top 3, top 5, depending on how you measure it, IT technology and IT services companies. Mm-hmm. It operates in 88 countries around the world. It's a $110 billion company. And it really does focus on technology, IT services, and driven by innovation. Things like the emoji, you can link to NTT. They developed or invented the emoji, for instance. So there's a host of companies, but we're actually focused in the sort of NTT Limited company, which is really focused around technology and outside of Japan, so the global side of it.
Got it. Okay. I was going to say that NTT may not necessarily be a consumer-facing brand, but with creations like the emoji, which I know is just probably one small part of the business, certainly it does touch many hundreds of millions of users, if not even more than that. So that's pretty fascinating. So let's now talk about how technology can play a role in a sport like cycling. What exactly is at play here?
So I think if you just look at sport, I think this, to me, always just put some context to it. Increasingly, we are seeing people watching sport in two modes. One is obviously either through a television broadcast interface or live. And there's a second screen emerging, which we just generally refer to as the digital screen. That could be your handheld device, to get enriched information, to get a bit more context of what's happening in the sport itself. It could be around player statistics. If you look at baseball in the U.S., increasingly there's the ability to sort of bring up the statistics that are interesting, just to improve and enrich the viewing experience. So in cycling, if you think about cycling, you've got 176 riders moving as a one formation. There are teams of 8 that ride together, and so to bring context to the strategies by the teams in different weather conditions, to understand how fast they're going, what the weather conditions are, what the gradients are when they cross the Alps. I mean, all of those sorts of things really improve that viewing experience, and not just for the viewer, but also for the fan. So that's just one example of just really making it much more engaging for the fan and the viewer in general.
All right, so it's about information or data, and it's really, you feel, born out of this second screen movement where we're not only watching, say, the Tour de France on our television set, but we have that tablet on our lap or a smartphone in our hand, and we're able to augment what we see on the big screen with deeper information that we may glean from the cyclist in this case, push to that secondary device, or even live at the event, sitting in the stands. You can look down at your phone and see extra information. Is that the idea?
100%. And this is where it gets really interesting. So let me take something very simple. In the Tour de France, we have GPS chips on every bicycle, not on the athletes, but on the bicycles, which means we can actually now track their speed. We can track position. We've got obviously GPS coordinates. Once we have that data, now there's a very complex process of how we get that, which I won't bore you with. But once we have that information, just think about the richness then we can start displaying in real time. When these cyclists go down the mountains, I mean, they get up to 100 kilometers an hour. So that's probably about close to 70 miles an hour.
Amazing.
And so to have that context while you're watching it, reflected on the screen for one, just provides an amazing context of what these athletes are capable of. Then on the other hand, think about just the viewer experience. Maybe you're new to cycling, or maybe you just don't really understand the team strategies. We can now start using technology like heat maps to show that the guy who wins the final sprint might not be the guy who goes the fastest. It's actually the guy who gets the timing right to actually peak at the right time. Or just that resolve of holding back while competitors are actually going full out, understanding where your strengths are and just getting the timing right that makes the winner. So those type of strategies that play out, we can really visualize and make real, not just to the fans, but also to those who are starting to watch it. And suddenly you have a very different engagement and understanding with the viewer and the fan.
We'll continue our chat with NTT about the Tour de France and how technology and artificial intelligence and data and all that is driving sports, not just cycling. We'll continue the discussion when we return in a couple of moments from now. But first, again, thank you to ASUS, the title sponsor on Tech It Out. In fact, they've been with us since the very beginning, since July of 2017, creating technology for today and tomorrow's smart life. Visit asus.com/US/radio for more info, including information and photos and videos on their ZenBook line of laptops, great for students this time of year, whether you go with a Windows model or Chromebook, which is very popular in the education space. Again, that's asus.com/US/radio. We'll be right back with more Tech It Out.
Follow Mark Saltzman on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram. Listen to Tech It Out whenever you want.
We're chatting with Etienne Renica. He is the Group CTO or Chief Technical Officer for NTT, a global technology company and an official partner at the Tour de France last weekend. So can this data then also be used for predictive analysis? I mean, if you're training an athlete, can't you use this data in order to shave seconds off of, one turn? And
Well, you absolutely can. I mean, I think there's a great example of baseball for the U.S. audience. There's a movie, Moneyball, you probably remember.
Yeah.
Now, what we've done, so this is if I just take a step back, the data we've been collecting is very much public domain data of all the riders. You can think about things like the last 5 years' history of a rider, the performance, why did they win, what did they place, what were the weather conditions during these races. So we've built this data, which now allows us to do really deep analytics to say, well, in a certain race of a certain weather type, of a certain distance, of a certain profile, these are the riders that, based on the historic performance, now perform the best. That could very easily then be used to say, well, this is where these riders or a particular rider needs to improve on, and then adjust the training schedule to reflect that. In the Tour de France we've just had concluded, we did a lot of predictive sort of information that we pushed through the digital channels as well as broadcast. Now, I can tell you, one of the things that was fascinating was using these computer-generated models to predict a winner on every stage. And then obviously leveraging all this data we had. And of course, again, you weight this last season's performance as the heaviest. Now, here's what we concluded. We were able to provide those predictions through digital channels, which was then picked up by the broadcasters. And of course, the broadcast could then discuss it. And very often journalists actually had their predictions based on cycling journalists who followed the Tour, say, for 20 years. And they would then compare this, which made a very interesting discussion, a very engaging discussion for the viewer and the fan. And here's the really interesting piece. At the end of the Tour, based on the actual results, we now estimate that our predictor is on par with a cycling journalist with 30 years of experience.
Wow.
So that's where it gets really interesting. I mean, very, very interesting. And it's really about you getting those discussions, getting the viewer to be interested and engaged in who can win, what's the stage, and then watch the race with a different lens or different perspective.
I was going to ask you about this study that you commissioned about the connection between AI and fan engagement. So for those who want to learn more about that and about the company NTT and your work with sporting events, is there a website that you'd recommend?
Yeah, so our website, just very easy, is hello.global.ntt. And you'll find there's a nice tab on the Tour de France, and there's a lot of information on the company as well as the Tour de France. So it's hello.global.ntt.
Very fascinating. Thank you so much, Etienne. Etienne Renica. He is the group CTO for NTT. That's hello.global.ntt, as in Nicole, Tom. Etienne, thank you again. Have a great summer.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Mark.
Wow, pretty exciting stuff, huh? Technology, and I've said this before, it really is transforming or even disrupting virtually every industry, whether it's healthcare, as we heard off the top of the show with the WeRecover digital addiction platform, or entertainment. We talked with Comcast about professional sports, esports, and how kids like 16-year-olds are making $3 million playing a Fortnite World Cup competition in New York. So we're talking more money made than those at Wimbledon or the Masters or what have you. So certainly amazing times. And then we finally talked about sports with NTT and the Tour de France and how data and artificial intelligence is not just analyzing information, but also predicting events as well. So amazing stuff. All right, technology. I don't have to sell you. Obviously, it's a show called Tech It Out. If you're listening, then you get it and you enjoy it, I hope. Thank you to my sponsor. Tech It Out is brought to you by ASUS, creating technology for today and tomorrow's smart life. ASUS, for those in search of incredible. Visit asus.com/US/radio for more info on their stellar products. That's asus.com/US/radio. Before I worked with them, by the way, I always called the company ASUS. I thought it was Asus, but they said, nope, it's ASUS. And we'll have the company on the show to talk about back to school soon. Maybe next weekend I'll find someone to interview and have them chat about looking for a laptop for a student. So listen out for that. And I also wanted to thank Western Digital, or WD. They're also a sponsor now on Tech It Out. And they have these super rugged G Technology branded Armor ATD portable hard drives. Bit of a mouthful, but in a nutshell, they're designed for those looking for a durable drive to bring on the go, especially for content creators. Maybe you're a photographer or a videographer and you work in the field and you want something rugged, durable, that can withstand the elements and protect your data. Go to g-technology.com for more info. Have a great rest of your weekend, everyone. And next weekend, we kick off that 2-month contest with Hotels.com, giving away a $250 gift card every week until the end of September. Tell you more about that next weekend on Tech It Out. Bye-bye for now.